My name is Lauren Pierce, and on the night I turned 32 I learned how much damage a smile can hide. I was standing beside a fondant mountain of a cake on a rooftop in downtown Seattle, the harbor glittering, the fairy lights threaded like constellations, when my boyfriend, no, my almost fiancé, Mason tapped his glass and said, "I've got a surprise for our girl." Our girl. He loves the plural when he needs an audience. He ushered everyone closer, my mother with her careful barb and careful opinions, my younger sister Haley already angling for a better angle, co-workers, neighbors, the bartender I always tip too much. Mason grinned at me in that boyish way people always forgive. "You all know Lauren is the planner," he said, and people laughed politely because it's true. Tonight, I did the planning. I made a big move for our future. He reached for my hand. My stomach dipped. It could have been a proposal. Instead, he raised a folder like a game show prize and said, "This morning I signed the lease for our new place, Pierce and Pine. A wine bar/cafe, the dream we talk about at 2 a.m. I did it. Your mom helped me with the forms, and Haley ran point with the broker. You hate paperwork, babe. I handled the guarantor stuff. It's done." Applause came because people need somewhere to put their hands in moments like that. My mother's face brightened with relief, as if a test result had finally come back benign. Haley squealed and hugged him too long. Someone shouted, "About time." The saxophonist Mason hired for ambience slid into a cheerful riff. "Guarantor," I said, softly. Mason's mouth was still moving for the crowd. He leaned toward my cheek like he was going to kiss me and murmured, "We'll talk later. You're going to love this. It's your vision. My vision has a habit of becoming other people's project." I squeezed the cake knife until the ridges imprinted my palm and smiled because that is a language I'm fluent in. I thanked everyone for coming. I let Mason keep the mic. I blew out the candles, and someone yelled, "Make a wish." I wished not for anything sweet. I wished for quiet. For the kind that lets you hear the floorboards give you the truth. I grew up 2 hours south, in a town that thinks good hair and a reliable SUV are the highest forms of competence. My father died when I was 19. He left me a toolbox and a sentence I have repeated to myself like a charm. Check what they say against what you know. I checked out of that town the next year for college, then for a job in comms that taught me how to peel the meat off comforting stories and hand people the bone of what happened. I am white. I am the eldest daughter of a woman who says she loves both her girls exactly the same, and then hands Haley the first slice, the first look, the first permission. Haley is 5 years younger and good at making people feel like a party is about to start, even if she's just opening the fridge. She calls me Spreadsheet, like it's a cute pet name. Mason fit into our family like an eager intern who is unusually good at mugs. He moved glasses around my life and called it helping. He had a job consulting that never quite called him back after 5 and a watch he paid for in installments. He could talk his way into a dinner and out of a deadline. He texted Haley memes about me going to bed at 10, and I told myself it was nice that he tried with my family. He borrowed my favorite blazer for an interview and didn't return it for 6 months. I let it all slide because I grew up in a home where letting it slide was how you were told you were generous. At 11 that night, after the rooftop emptied out and my mother had kissed the air on both sides of my face and told me how proud Dad would be, after Haley had filmed a final cheers to the future that cut my face off at the eyebrow, I stood in my kitchen beside a vase of lilies and said, evenly, "What did you sign?" Mason held me like an apology with muscles. "You know how we keep saying we want to build a place? I found the spot. Capitol Hill. Brick walls. Tile that looks like old Europe. I got it. We'll do morning pastry, weekend flights, live jazz on Thursdays. And I secured it using your credit. Like, your score is insane. Don't worry, I'm on it. Your mom helped me find the right line on the form. You hate forms." "My credit," I said. "Our," he said reflexively, and then caught himself. "Okay. Yours. But we're us. And I'm the one who signed the person things. The liability stuff, your name's just to." "Just to what?" "Look, he said, soothing. This is one of those moments you stress about now and thank me for later. You play it safe, I play it big, we meet in the middle. I think my face did something. He reached for it and I stepped back. Where's the lease? I said. He handed me the folder. I scanned. The letters were clear. Haley's name in the agent contact line because she knew a guy. My mother's careful signature on a witness line. My name in the box labeled personal guarantor, under language that made my stomach go cool. Joint and several liability. There was no equity agreement, no operating agreement, no limit. He had signed me up for his ambition with a pen and a grin. Do you remember when Dad taught me to hang drywall? I asked the heir. Measure twice. What? Mason said, faintly annoyed. Babe, your metaphors. Measure twice, I repeated. Cut once. And if you cut wrong, you don't keep hacking the board. You put the saw down. I'm not hacking, he said. I'm building. You signed my name to your risk. It's our dream. I hadn't dreamt that version. He tried to pull me back into soft focus. Lauren, this is how people do things. They leap. You've been waiting to leap your whole life. And you've been waiting to use my legs, I said. The lily's scent turned cloying. Outside, Seattle rain began in polite dots on the balcony. I did not fight that night. I let him talk and let his sentences slosh around us. I said I was tired. He took the couch with a performative sigh, as if he were martyring himself for my moodiness. I lay in the dark and the outline of my ceiling fan looked like a decision wheel. I could hear my mother's voice. He's a doer. I could hear my father's. Check what they say against what you know. I know contracts. I know consequences. I know that love that bypasses consent is not love. I know that Haley does not do anything for free. At 2 a.m., I opened my laptop with the kind of calm that looks like anger after it's learned to read. I do crisis communications for a living. I build contingency plans in my sleep. I made one now. The first column I typed was headed "What he thinks." He thinks I am flattered. He thinks I will fix the details. He thinks my mother will talk me down. He thinks Haley is on his team because she likes shiny beginnings. The second column, what I know. I know the Washington Commercial Tenant Act in plain language. I know revocation windows, rescission clauses, and exactly how a personal guarantee can and cannot be withdrawn. I know money leaves traces. I know the difference between a surprise and a trap. The third, what T.O. prove. That he filed anything using my identity without explicit authorization. That Haley was compensated. That my mother knew what she was signing. That there was no written agreement giving me equity, protection, or even a veto. By 3 I had a list of calls for morning, a list that did not include, talk to Mason. At 9, I called the broker listed on the lease and introduced myself as the named guarantor. The broker's assistant sounded chirpy until I asked for a copy of everything signed and the complete application packet. We only share with the primary tenant, she said. Great, I said. Then I'll see the whole thing because my name is on the hook if he defaults. There was a pause. She put me on hold, conferred, and returned with a friendlier tone. We'll email within the hour. They did. The packet arrived with the efficiency of people sure they are in the right. I opened it and found the hole I needed. The authorization to pull credit section had a signature that was almost mine. Haley's E's curl at the end like a flirt. I pressed straight down. Someone had practiced and still missed. At 10, I called my bank. Place a fraud alert on my credit file. Freeze all new lines until I lift it. No new accounts, no authorized checks, no second chance courtesy. The woman on the phone asked for a reason. I suspect my information has been misused, I said, and she said, we've got you. At 11, I called a lawyer, my friend in real estate trusts. Maya, a woman with a voice like a new scalpel. I sent her the packet and she called back almost immediately. 2 things, she said. 1, This guarantee is brutal and naked. 2. That signature on the credit authorization is not yours. And if it isn't, they have a problem. We can have a very pointed conversation with the landlord about withdrawing you based on fraudulent application materials. The question is timing. The landlord will try to keep whatever is nailed down. She paused. You okay? I'm tired of having to be okay, I said. I'll be the one who isn't, she replied. Forward everything. Don't warn him. Quiet is power here. Quiet is power. I wrote it on a post-it and stuck it to my monitor. Next. Haley. I didn't call. Calling invites a performance. I texted, how much did he pay you to run point? She responded with a selfie of her rolling her eyes. Babe, I did it for you, she wrote. Do you know how hard I worked to get that space? Gratitude would be a cute look. I typed and deleted. Then I screenshotted the forged authorization and sent it. Cute look, I wrote, is prison orange. She did not respond. My mother rang within the hour, breathless. Lauren, I'm confused. Haley says you're upset, but Mason did something big. He took initiative. You told me men don't anymore. He used my credit, I said. Without asking. You two are a team. He asked you, I said. Silence. Then, well, he needed help with the forms. You hate forms. I love consent, I said. She exhaled, annoyed at the shift of her own narrative. You always make things so legal. Yes, I said. Because legal is where the money lives. And where the consequences do. You're being cold. I'm being exact. Don't sabotage his dream because you're nervous. It isn't sabotage to refuse to be collateral. You're so dramatic, Lauren. I looked out at the grey smear of the Sound. The gulls folded like paper airplanes. Do you remember when Dad made me redo the caulking around the tub 3 times because I smeared it? I asked. What does that have to do with anything? He said messy work lets water in. It rots things you can't see yet. For God's sake, she said. You and your metaphors. 15 minutes later, Mason texted a string of apologetic balloons and then, your mom says you feel blindsided. I'm sorry for the delivery. But the bar is happening. We'll work out the paperwork. You're the best thing in my life. Don't punish me for making a move. I wanted to type something mean and elegant. Instead, I typed nothing. I let the silence stand like a third person in the room, turning their face toward him and not away. At 2, Maya called. Landlord is cooperative because they don't want dirty paper. They're open to rescission if we state that your identity was used without authorization. They'll keep the deposit and relist. How much is the deposit? 5 figures. Who's 5? I asked. Looks like his, she said. A cashier's check from an account that isn't yours. For the first time that day, I breathed. So he didn't touch my money. So far, she said. And that forged signature is leverage. I'm drafting a letter reserving all rights and asserting identity misuse. We'll CC the broker. We'll blind copy you. Do not forward to him. Let him show up to an empty frame. The plan came together in pieces like furniture you build without extra screws. I called my boss and said I needed tomorrow. I opened a new document labeled Exit. I listed what would go where. The spare keys, the plant he killed and insisted he could revive, his watch charger, the hoodie he left draped on my chair like a claim. I called my building and removed his fob access. I scheduled a locksmith for the same day we would send the letter. I set all my calls to record and routed the letter to my personal email, because work accounts are discoverable and I am no one's discovery. That evening, Mason arrived with flowers the color of fresh lipstick and a face like a valedictorian knocked for cheating. He set the bouquet down and reached for me. I stepped back. Did you sign my name on any form? He hesitated and then went for charm. Babe, I was in a rush. Haley had the guy. You were slammed at work. It was a box. It was like a credit check. You never get denied. Did you sign my name? He spread his hands, as if nothing in them could hurt me. I scribbled. It's not like I took money. It's it's fraud. Lauren, he said softly, like a man telling a skittish animal not to bolt. Don't call things such ugly names. Let's call it momentum. You don't get to rename other people's boundaries. His eyes flashed with something I had missed before because I wanted to. You're going to ruin this. You already did, I said, and his mouth tightened. Your mom said you'd do this, he muttered. My mother is not in charge of my consent. Consent, he mocked. It's a coffee shop lease, not a... It's my liability, I said. And you used it like a party trick. He laughed once, sharp. You love to be the adult in the room. Fine. Be the adult. Fix it. Paperwork is your kink. I stood very still. I'm not fixing what you broke to benefit you, I said. I'm fixing what you broke to save me. He dropped the charm then. You'll be alone forever, you know, he said with that lazy cruelty some people keep under the table. Because you're exhausting. Because nothing is ever enough. I thought of the letter in Maya's drafts and felt a calm that didn't feel like a weapon so much as a weather system changing. I'm enough for me, I said. He stormed out in a flurry of performed offense, leaving the lilies and their sweetness and a thin imprint of cologne that smelled like borrowed confidence. I waited until I heard the elevator shutter closed. Then I sat and looked at the ocean of my quiet apartment and the way the lights in other buildings blinked like Morse code. I typed one message to Maya, pull the trigger tomorrow. Then I texted Haley, you put my name on something without permission. That stops now. She responded with a line of laughing emojis and then, calm down. You think so small. At 9 the next morning, Maya's letter flew out across the internet like a small, precise bomb. By noon, the landlord had replied. They would rescind my guarantee based on a defective application and would contact the primary applicant. By 1, the broker asked us to kindly stop copying legal. By 2, my mother called, voice strained. Lauren, the landlord called Mason. They're backing out. Why are you doing this? I'm not, I said. They are. Because someone lied on a form. You're going to make him look irresponsible. I didn't need to. Haley says. I don't care what Haley says. Don't be cruel. I'm being exact, I said again, and hung up before the conversation could perform its usual contortions. My phone buzzed with Mason's texts like a hornet nest. At 4 he switched from pleading to rage. You're a snake, he wrote. No one will ever love you because you can't get out of your head. I put my phone face down. At 6 he banged at my door. I let him knock until the concierge came up with security. Ms. Pierce has asked us not to admit you, the concierge said. Kind, professional. Mason's mouth curled. Everyone knows she's impossible, he said to a stranger like that would redeem him. I watched him in the security camera feed. The shape of a man who thought momentum is the same as character. Then I turned off the monitor and ate dinner standing over the sink and tasted relief, which is not sweet. It's clean. The next morning, I woke up to a tidal wave of aftermath. My mother texted paragraphs that amounted to, you didn't have to embarrass him. Haley sent a screenshot of a group chat where she called me a control freak who hates fun, and then privately, the landlord filed a fraud report, you psycho. You could have handled this quietly. The broker's assistant sent a brief note confirming that the application has been voided due to irregularities. And then, satisfying precise. Maya forwarded me a copy of the landlord's notice to Mason. The lease is terminated due to a material misrepresentation in the application. Security deposit forfeited. Property relist. I didn't smile. I made tea. I sat on the floor with my back to the couch like a teenager, and I let the heat from the mug warm the place under my ribs where something had been gnawing all night. I thought of Dad and dry rot, and how it starts with a smear on a seam. It would have been enough to stop there. to cut the cord and call it justice. But revenge, for me, wasn't only the withdrawal of my labor and my name. It was the gentle, surgical exposure of their habits. It was reminding them that I don't exist to be the quiet infrastructure under their plans. It was making them learn my absence like a new language. I am Lauren Pierce, and the fallout from that birthday didn't just ripple, it detonated. By the end of that week, my apartment felt less like a home and more like a war room. Every ping of my phone was another demand, another accusation, another plea. My mother cycled through scripts as if trying them on: guilt, outrage, martyrdom. Haley oscillated between mocking me and begging me not to ruin her connections. And Mason? Well, Mason collapsed into rage. The man who had once whispered sweet promises into my hair now filled my voicemail with venom. "You're selfish, Lauren. You'll regret this. No one will touch you after this stunt. You just nuked your own future." His words were supposed to sting. Instead, I saved them, each one, like evidence. Because that was my next step. Evidence. Revenge wasn't screaming in the street or throwing his clothes out the window. Revenge was precision. I documented everything: texts, emails, copies of the lease packet with the forged signature. I even pulled screenshots of Haley's Instagram stories the week she was helping him seal the deal, posts tagged in the exact neighborhood of the property. All of it went into a neatly labeled folder: Project Aftermath. I didn't need to use it right away. Just knowing I had the arsenal gave me power. Power I'd spent my whole life handing away. But my revenge wasn't just against Mason. It was against the whole ecosystem that had thrived on my silence. My sister, my mother, the casual assumption that Lauren would bend. So I did something they never expected. I stopped bending. When my mother called again, voice dripping with disapproval: "Lauren, relationships are about compromise. Your father would be heartbroken to see you throw away a good man over a little paperwork," I answered calmly. "Dad taught me to fix things that are broken. Mason isn't broken. He's dishonest. There's a difference." And then I hung up. The silence after that was sweeter than any applause. Haley tried a different tack. She cornered me at our mother's house during Sunday dinner, all false sweetness. "Look, Lauren, maybe you overreacted. We can spin this. You're good at spin. Maybe if you just apologize to Mason." I put down my fork and looked her dead in the eye. "Apologize? He forged my name. You helped. You're lucky I haven't taken this to the police." Her smirk faltered. "You wouldn't. Try me," I said. And for the first time in our lives, she didn't have a comeback. Meanwhile, Mason's dream unraveled fast. Word travels quickly in Seattle's tight-knit hospitality scene. By the time the landlord relisted the property, whispers had started. Mason Rivers had faked a guarantor. Investors pulled away. Friends who once sang his praises suddenly had other commitments. He tried to paint me as the villain, but receipts speak louder than charm. The sweetest part? I didn't lift a finger beyond the truth. I didn't have to. His lies collapsed under their own weight. And while his life shrank, mine expanded. I slept deeply for the first time in years. I started running again, not from problems, but toward myself. I reconnected with old friends I'd pushed aside for Mason's drama. At work, my focus sharpened. My boss even commented, "You seem lighter." Because I was. Revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it's clarity, silence, and the refusal to play along. Still, I wasn't done. I had one final move to make sure the lesson sank in. Mason needed to know that the woman he tried to use as collateral had become the one writing his epitaph in the business world. And I knew exactly how to do it. My final move came quietly, like turning a key in a lock. Mason always thought revenge was loud. Fights in public, doors slammed, dramatic tears. He never understood that the sharpest kind of revenge is quiet truth, delivered to the right people at the right time. I contacted a food and drink columnist who covered new ventures in Seattle's hospitality scene. Instead of ranting or accusing, I kept it simple. If you're looking into upcoming bar projects, make sure to verify the guarantors. Some applications aren't as solid as they look. Attached was a single page, the lease packet, with the credit authorization and my forged signature neatly circled in red. That was all it took. 2 weeks later, the article appeared, Ambition or Fraud? The Collapse of a Would-Be Bar Owner. It didn't have to name me. The story was clear enough. It detailed the failed lease, the lost deposit, and most damning of all, the unauthorized guarantor. The phrase identity misuse was printed in bold. His image cracked instantly. The investors he bragged about stopped answering his calls. His LinkedIn turned into a graveyard of unanswered pitches. Even Haley, who once flaunted their partnership, deleted every post linking her to him. My mother called me, her voice tight with anger. How could you let this get so far? He's destroyed. I answered with a calm I had earned. I didn't let anything happen. He forged, he lied, he collapsed. All I did was step out of the way and let the truth show itself. Mason, desperate, showed up at my lobby one last time. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes glassy, and he clutched a wilted bouquet of grocery store roses. Please, he begged through the glass. We can fix this. You're the only one who ever believed in me. I looked at him, at the man who once called me his partner and then signed away my trust with a forged stroke of ink. I did believe in you, I said softly. Until you turned me into collateral. Now I believe in myself. And I walked away, leaving him standing there with flowers drooping in the cold. The aftermath was theirs to carry, not mine. Haley had to scramble to explain why she was part of the forged paperwork. My mother was left to face the hollowness of her approval, realizing it couldn't shield anyone from consequences. And Mason? Within 3 months, he was gone from Seattle, his dream in ashes, his name whispered like a cautionary tale. I stayed. I thrived. I began shaping my own cafe concept. Smaller, smarter, built with care and on my own terms. No forged papers, no stolen signatures. Just me, my vision, and a future I chose. And I learned something I will never forget. Revenge doesn't always scream. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's the absence of rescue. And sometimes it's walking away while the world finally sees the liar for who he really is. If you enjoyed this revenge story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from.